Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Unmet Style Chat session. I'm here with David DeSandro and from Include, and I've been wanting to talk to him for a while. So, hello.
Hello, hey there. Hi, Gene.
Well, I wanted to talk to you first off. I've been following your work for a while through Include and some of the stuff you put out into the community, and use some of that stuff personally. But wanted to say congratulations on the .NET Site of the Year
Thanks.
with the South by Southwest Beer Camp website, which I've come to admire year after year.
Yeah, that was very awesome to. I mean, just to be in that category, there's a lot of other heroes of mine, Ian Coyle, and um, I'm forgetting his name now. I forget it, but he did Sophie Hardage.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Jonah
I met him in
Goldstein.
life.
Yep.
Now I'm forgetting him. And Dan Mall,
Yeah.
and the guys at Big Spaceship. So I mean, that was just really great to be
Yeah.
in a group with them.
Yeah, it's pretty. So I just wanted to, you've probably been asked this before. I've seen blog posts where you talk about some of this stuff. So hopefully you'll bear with me. But what what gave you the idea to approach it with the whole zooming aspect of it? Because that was the really original.
Well, I had that. That was like the original idea was, um, I really wanted to use CSS transforms, and so I had this idea that it was going to be this 3D interface, and you would zoom into it. And I knew that like you would only be able to have 3D in Safari. So for the other browsers, it was going to be like this zoomable thing. And I spent a good amount of time building the first version of it, and it was like this. The idea was like, so it's this 3D. So the idea was that you were going to be like in the Colosseum or the Parthenon, basically.
Gotcha.
So you're like in front of it, and then you're like zooming into it, and then you're going through it, and it performed terribly, and it looked terrible. So and then Ian Coyle's site came out pretty much a year ago.
Right.
This is pretty much 1 year ago, and I took Nike Better World, and I took that, and I just I want to do it kind of like this, but like there's like big blocky type and kind of very flat in some areas. So I really copied a lot of those things, and that helped the actual performance and kind of put it all together.
That's cool. Yeah, and then the little secret at the end with the Inception thing was pretty funny. So
Yeah.
do you find that you are a you first off, you work at Include. So what do you do there? What's your daily role? Like what's
Yeah,
your-
I'm a front-end developer, and I'm kind of catering my specialty to HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and really what I want to be is working just kind of with the latest technologies, kind of fun platforms, stuff like for a while I've been working just on iOS and web development.
right?
So using web apps on iPhones and iPads, which has been great because if you're only worried about the iPhone and iPad, you don't have to consider, like how does this work?
Yeah.
Even in something like Firefox, and you get to take advantage of all these other things that are just for mobile Safari,
Right.
um, which has been great, and I really enjoy that. So what I like to do is kind of play around with like creative opportunities with those technologies. What can we do with HTML and CSS that you want to think, which is a really growing field now. I think a lot of my peers are thinking about this. It doesn't have to be a web page anymore.
Right.
So what are some fun things, or what cool effects can we put in?
Gotcha. Well, that was leading into is wanted everybody to know exactly what you do. But I was going to ask you like with the beer what would you call that? Beer fest?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
call it a beer camp.
Beer camp. Sorry, I forgot beer camp, not beer fest. When you approached that, I mean, did you start like mocking that thing up in Photoshop, or do you generally end with that one just go straight into HTML and stuff and start building out from that aspect, sort of prototyping first?
Yeah, I start prototyping, and really some of my ideas. I don't have a lot of ideas, and usually it's like I'm just building on one idea at a time. So this idea was like I just wanted to use CSS transforms. Mm-hmm. So with that in mind, start prototyping and building this thing. I'm not a very visually accomplished designer, so I don't. That's why like Beer Camp looks very flat. Like that's my aesthetic. That's as good as I can get. So I stick to code.
Gotcha. Well, the year prior to this one, it was like a cityscape, and you did all that in like, or was that the year prior to that? I don't remember, but you did like a cityscape, and you built it all in CSS and stuff. Do you just enjoy those things? Like I just saw a site that someone built an iPhone out of all
Right.
CSS and stuff. Did you get into those type of things, and what's your opinion on those types of projects?
Yeah, the CSS only, pure CSS
Yeah.
stuff. I work with a guy, Tom Giannatasio, who is putting out some great kind of CSS only demos, and I think it's awesome. Everybody should do it. So there's a lot of people saying like, oh, this is experimental, or it's like WebKit only,
Right.
and I feel like you got to really push it. You got to say, that doesn't matter. You should definitely try to feel that. Try to impress people and work from there. Pushing the envelope, and then we can catch up and think about how to fill it in if we want to use this one technique and actually for a client. So when I was doing that other beer camp, that was like a pure CSS thing, and last year, I mean that was a very big trend. So I got to be. I'd like to think I was on the early part of the trend.
Yeah, I would say you were. Yeah.
And now it's like now it's its own thing, and maybe it'll continue, or maybe we'll eventually get tired of these kind of things. Like nobody really talks about like, oh, this is standards compliant, because everybody builds their website standards compliant.
Yeah.
It's just become a convention. So maybe like this pure CSS thing is becoming that. It's becoming de facto standard.
That's pretty fun, if you think about it. Well, I also wanted to, while I have you here, I want to talk to you about a couple of the things you sort of released. I guess you've given gifts to us of the community, and one is the jQuery masonry. Like,
yeah.
How'd you come up with that? Like, did you solely come up with that? I mean, that's yours, right? I mean, you kind of put that out there for us.
Right. Well, this is kind of an instance where I invented my thing, but there was other developers that had pretty much the same solution.
Right.
So even before me, there's a developer who goes by the alias Superb.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he's Norwegian. I'm having trouble with his name. It's like Andreas Filstrom,
Something
I believe.
like that.
And he came out with a theme for WordPress called Gridalicious.
Yep.
And it was great. And I kind of like saw that, and I never really looked into it. I just had it floating in the back of my mind. And then I had a problem where I wanted to do this one type of layout, and I was like, oh, well, I remember hearing about somewhere else that you could use jQuery for your layout, and that'd be kind of weird. But I tried it, and so I found my other solution kind of independent of Gridalicious. And where Gridalicious was a WordPress theme, this was a jQuery plugin, so it was kind of more extensible or
yeah, it's a little more universal, I think, than a WordPress.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've been, I keep track of just general like things like masonry, and there's a developer in Japan who has a version of it called like VGrid,
Yeah.
and other sites will have their own kind of like layouts, and it gets labeled as masonry. Like I think Interview Magazine just came out with a new site last year, and it looks great. And it's like, oh, it's using masonry. Well, it's not at all. It's using somebody like really worked hard to like figure out their own custom layout.
Yeah, and they just call it masonry. Like, dope.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I get to say like I coined something. But I feel like I get credited, or I may get credited for things that I have no involvement in, or.
Well, the jQuery masonry sounds really cool. Like we just want to call it that, but it is really cool. I mean, we've used it in our projects we've done before, and thank you for putting it together.
It's really surprising that it's taken on its own kind of like motif. Like a lot of people associate it now with like inspiration kind of things, or like Pinterest uses it, and Gimme Bar and like Delicious is now using it for their screenshots, because it kind of like activates another part of your mind than is other than if things are in a list.
Yeah.
You read it in one way, and then if they're this, it's kind of like more like an aesthetic experience.
Yeah.
So, which is great. I love that it's become its own thing. So I hope this inspires others to consider making something that's like, how else can we present things other than in a list?
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Isotope. So you have this other thing you've put out there, Isotope. How does that relate to the masonry and kind of what's the deal with that?
Yeah, it was born out of masonry,
right?
And there's another like I said, I don't have a lot of ideas. There was another great jQuery plugin called jQuery Quicksand, and it had filtering and things like that. And I was like, oh, well, I can do this with masonry, and I created this hack to do it. And then of course people start using that hack, and so your work is now propagated through everybody else's work, and so I was like, this, there's a better way to do it. So, I was looking into how to do it better, and eventually evolved into its like kind of own plugin, and has a lot of other features that things like CSS transitions and hardware acceleration and stuff like that. So it's been great. It's been up for like about a year now.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that it's a for-profit thing. I run this kind of side business, and so it's like a new endeavor. Like I think a lot of front-end developers are scared to, like, I don't know, not scared, but there's no platform for actually selling your work. You feel like everything should be open source, and so this was kind of a trial and going out into that area.
Well, how's it going for you?
It's been going really well. I've been really happy with just the way it's been selling, and then the other part of that is managing support, which I'm still kind of working with.
Right.
Just this morning, I was closing out issues for masonry, and it's a problem because you want to help these people that are having problems with, but at the same time, it might not be with masonry. It's typically a jQuery issue.
Yeah, and you have to get all involved, and that's sort of people. A lot of folks don't realize how much work goes into supporting something you've put out. I can feel that, and I know that it probably is a lot of work.
Yeah, and the user might not know. They just might have a quick question, which is fine. Yeah. But if it's 7 quick questions every morning, that's
2 hours of your time or whatever, and you're like, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, so what's next for you? What do you have planned for 2012?
Well, right now I'm working on the new Include site where I work. Include, we're a design agency, and so that's really exciting because we're really trying to do some new things with transitions and the way the layout works.
I love that current version. I mean, when it hit, it was like, we all took notice of it. It was great work. Yeah,
we took a lot of pride in it, and it's always fun to see all like the rips that come from the Chinese or overseas, and so hopefully this will be ripped off just as much. Like that's what I'm kind of aiming for.
Yeah. That's flattering, Yeah, when it's like, hey, you're welcome. Well,
yeah. Like I haven't had a really good like ripped off site yet. So
there you go, man. Well, thank you for taking some time out of your day to talk to us, and we'll do it again.
Hey, thank you, Gene. Glad to be part of this.
Thank you.